and that's the thing. A lot of people who watch us do this job, they have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, and that we are just people and things happen to us, that happen to other people too. But we have this extraordinary job, which really requires us to not show when we sweat, or not show when we have a problem or when we're sick or whatever. But you know what? We're human, and these things do happen. And I think young singers need to remember that too.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to What's Opera Dog, a YouTube channel for professional singers and musicians. My name is Elisabeth Sergeeva. I'm an opera singer and also a team member of What's Opera Dog. Today is my first interview, and I'm very glad to welcome here a wonderful mezzo-soprano, Jennifer Larmore.
Hi, Elisabeth. Thank you for having me.
I would like to start from the beginning and ask you how and when did you decide to be a musician? Was it your own decision, or did it just happen?
I think I was pretty lucky, because as an American child growing up, we're mostly taken to sports events. We're not normally taken to the opera or to concerts or anything like that. But my parents, luckily, I was exposed to a lot of classical music. In fact, I even hated it because my father forced us to listen. He was very sweet, but he made us all sit down every Wednesday and listen to singers. And also, symphony concerts and things like that. And they had season tickets to the concert, and also when the Metropolitan Opera would come to our town of Atlanta, Georgia, on tour, they would take us. So the others, I don't think it rubbed off on them like it rubbed off on me. But I do remember being around 10 years old, and they took me to see La Traviata with the Met on tour. And I just remember the feeling of it all when the lights went down and the conductor came out on stage. And, of course, before that, we'd all had to take the time to dress up and make sure we had our tickets and get in the car and go down there. And, it was a big deal. And so I remember thinking, oh my God, I love this. This is so great. And then I was touched by the music, but it wasn't just that. I mean, I think it was just the whole experience that I had. So I'm really grateful to my parents that they exposed me as a little child to art and music and singing and all of that. So I think that's when it all started for me. And as time went on, of course, I played the flute in the little orchestra, and I had a wonderful conductor that made us sing our music. And so I remember him taking me, I was 12 years old. He took me aside and he said, you've got a really nice voice. He said, you should really be encouraged to take that farther. So I guess that's what happened. I mean, my parents encouraged me. They, in fact, groomed me, actually, for this kind of career. And I just went from there to college. And then, of course, I'm not going into a lot of detail, so it won't be boring for your listeners, but that's about the crux of it.
So your first opera was La Traviata?
Yes, of course, I'm not a soprano, but it still got to me.
And what was your first opera that you sang?
It was The Barber of Seville.
Okay.
In fact, that was the first opera I sang for almost every debut that I ever did in my career as well.
Okay. And did you have a teacher then in college?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I had a wonderful teacher, Robert McIver. And then after college, I had 3 years of nothing but technique. I mean, I didn't even sing a song. I didn't sing anything. It was just technique with John Bullock, who is Sandra Bullock's father. I taught her how to do a headstand, And after that, I ran out of money and I couldn't take lessons again. And then my career started. So yeah, but that early teaching was wonderful for me.
And did you take another lessons by somebody else?
Not really. I got so busy that I just got, I think I got people around me that had really good ears. I had terrific coaches. And I didn't have very many vocal problems anyway. So I mean, I'm not encouraging young singers not to take lessons. That's just how it happened for me. I got so busy that, and I have a natural technique. So it just went with my body, I think.
You said you didn't have any vocal problems in your career. So there wasn't any vocal crisis or something?
Elisabeth, wait a minute. I didn't say I didn't have any vocal problems in my career. I saw how that shocked you for a moment, shocked all the words out of your head, you know. No, but I didn't start out with vocal problems, let's just say. But, you know, let's think about it. We're women. Our bodies change as we grow up and have children or don't, or go through hormonal imbalances or menopause or whatever. So, I mean, these things affect us. And where is our instrument? It's inside of our bodies. And so, you know, it just stands to reason that things are going to happen to us as we grow up in our bodies, you know, and grow up as singers as well. So I didn't start out with very many problems at all. I don't feel like I had any to begin with. But then as time went on, and of course my body changed and my psychology changed, and I was traveling all the time. Of course, you know, you develop a little thing here or there, but I would always then from time to time go back to John or to Dr. McIver, the two teachers that I really trusted. And then they would fix me. And then I'd go back out again and, you know, do what I could to stay in a good place with my technique.
Would you like to tell us about one vocal crisis, what you had, maybe, if you would like, and how you overcome this psychologically and vocally also?
Okay. A vocal crisis that I had, I think it came at a time when I wasn't really realizing what was happening to me. My father was sick. He had prostate cancer, and he'd had it for many years. And, you know, in those days, they told him, well, it's the slowest growing cancer, you know, you'll be okay. It'll take a long time. They just didn't do anything. So it did, but it took its toll. And around that time, he was getting really, really sick. I lost the joy in singing. And I was doing Lady Macbeth, the Verdi Lady Macbeth, and I was starting it in Geneva and then going to Bologna. By the time I got to Bologna, my voice was okay. I felt okay about singing again. But when I was in Geneva, I was grieving for him because he was very, very near the end. And it made it almost impossible for me to sing. I think that my chest was tight, my breathing was tight. If you talk about the psychology of it, well, if you're grieving for someone, you don't have the joy. You don't feel like getting up on stage and doing anything, really. You don't feel like doing anything but just being there with that person. And I was also angry because I was so far away. He was in the United States, down in Georgia, in Atlanta, and I was in Italy. And I guess I started thinking about the fact that all my career, when there's been family crises or when there's been wonderful things happening, weddings or births of babies or whatever, I've always been on the other side of the world, you know? So I started thinking about all this, and I think it all got into my body. I know I talk about the body a lot, but it makes a difference when things happen to you. The psychology, the technical part of it, the body, all of it, it was against me at that point. So I found that things became harder. It became harder to go from my middle voice to the high. It became harder to get a good breath. It was almost like there was a year or so where I was just struggling really hard. And then he passed away, you know, and so then I had to deal with that. And actually, it was a beautiful thing because I was actually able to be there with him. So that gave me a little bit of, I guess, extra air in my body. I was able to breathe again. And though I missed him terribly, I was able to say, okay, finally, I am able to come and have some closure on this horrible thing, because, you know, he was my best friend in the whole world. And so that it was almost as if the person who had, well, he and my mother but the person who had been there with me when I was 12 and 14 doing these competitions and telling me, you know, how to find the light, and you're an Amazon queen, be proud of your height and come on stage and do what I know you can do. Well, all of that stability was taken away from me. I felt like I had no solid ground on which to stand. So of course, when you feel like that and you feel like your support system has all of a sudden disappeared, then it's extremely hard to sing. Now, maybe it wasn't as much technical as it was psychological, because after the whole, experience of grieving and his death, and then celebrating his life, because he was a man to absolutely be celebrated in a very positive way, then I started to be able to sing again. I started to be able to come back from that. Now, there was another time where because I started menopause at 38, and I was singing, I think, Giulio Cesare at the Met, and I literally was thrown into this incredible hormonal imbalance. And I was at the same time doing a coast to coast recital tour. I would literally go on stage, sing a set, come back off and cry, go back on, sing a set, come off stage and cry. I was in the worst depression I've ever been in. I would imagine myself standing outside of my body saying, okay, now, Jenny, you know, this is just hormonal. You know, this is going to be okay. I was talking to myself, literally out loud, talking to myself. And my poor accompanist, Antoine Palot, he thought I was actually going crazy. He was calling my husband. He was saying, something's going wrong with this woman. You know, she needs major help. And of course, no one ever knew. Because, and that's the thing, a lot of people who watch us do this job, they have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, and that we are just people and things happen to us, you know, that happen to other people too. But we have this extraordinary job, which really requires us to not show when we sweat, or not show when we have a problem, or when we're sick or whatever. But you know what? We're human, and these things do happen. And I think young singers need to remember that too. You know, you are human. You're not a machine. You know, the same things that have been happening to people for thousands of years, they're going to happen to you too. So it's how you handle it, I think, that is the most important thing to remember, and to try as hard as you can to be as positive as you can when you're going through it, and to look at the big picture, because that too shall pass. You know, things pass and you get better.
Well, thank you for telling this.
You're welcome.
I also would like to ask you about Lady Macbeth and Kostelnička, what you debuted. How was this change for you, for your voice? How does it feel?
It's funny,
And
you know.
Some people also say that you are changing the Fach, but you are not.
Exactly, thank you. Actually, it was, I call it more of an addition. You know, it's like the cherry on top. You know, when you have this wonderful dessert and then it's already wonderful, and then they put this little tasty cherry on top. That's the way it's been with my career. I feel like I was very lucky in a lot of ways to do a repertoire, which I have loved. You know, I loved Rossini for 20 years until I got too old and nobody wanted to see an old lady up there doing, you know, Rosina. But I can still do the coloratura, as you know, and I can still do the high notes and the lows. But I get it. You know, it's not my turn anymore. It's somebody else's, and I love that. That's just the way of life. But as far as the Lady Macbeth was concerned, it was a funny story, because Christophe Lloyd, the director and good friend of mine, he said to me, I'd like for you to consider doing Lady Macbeth. And I laughed out loud in his face. I said, are you crazy? I mean, what would that be like? Yeah, I felt like I was some type of like Rossini bonbon or something, trying to put on a different face or something. And he said, no, come on. You're such an actress. Take this to the rehearsal room and, see what you can do. And I said, well, isn't there like a high D at the end of the big sleepwalk aria? And he said, well, yeah, it's a high something. He said, so take it and see if you can do it. So I took it into the practice room, and I realized, I looked at all the markings and the editor's markings as well, and the music and the accompaniment. And I realized that it was a bel canto role, because there is this big aria with trills and bel canto turns, and then there's a moment where Verdi writes 5 pianissimi that he wants, and then there's a big incredible arias, and then there's the sleepwalking. I mean, it's a bel canto tour de force. So I thought, oh, okay, maybe then it's like Eboli, which is the only other real bel canto thing that he wrote. So, and I say bel canto because you need, in order to have the right voice, to be able to do everything that is in the accompaniment and in the score, you really need somebody who is adept at bel canto singing. So I realized that maybe I could do it. And my husband, Davide, he was so funny because he's Italian. And he said, well, aren't you nervous to sing Verdi Lady Macbeth in Italy? And I wasn't nervous at all, because I knew I could sing it really well. And I wasn't really thinking about what anyone would think, because I was having so much fun with it. And I swear to you, I wasn't really worried about anybody's criticism, because I was doing something that I really wanted to do. I knew I could do it well. And even if it was only for one time in my life, I wanted the experience of being able to do it. So I did it in Geneva, and that was really, really hard because of Dad and his sickness. But then I got it together finally in Bologna. The thing that makes me a little mad, not today, but then it made me mad, is that the one time they filmed it, and the one on YouTube, is the only time I was sick and I sang, and it didn't sound all that great. But anyway, I can tell everybody it did go well in Italy. And so I was quite happy about that. But I would say also to a lot of singers out there, me, I'm a teacher. I'm always talking to the young singers. So I would say, don't say no so quickly, okay? Study it. See what the accompaniment is saying, see what the composer wrote, then see if the shoe fits. Try it. But I didn't change Bach. I'm just singing with the voice that I have. I've always done that. I remember when they asked me to do Carmen, and my accompanist, Antoine, said, oh no, it's career suicide, don't do it. And I said, well, I think that people need to calm down about this thing, because I'm going to sing it with the voice that I have. I can't sing it like, Maria Guligena or somebody. I've got to sing it like I sing it.
Wonderful. So now I would like to talk about your teaching, because you teach a lot. And could you tell us about the main points of your technique?
Yes, I have been teaching off and on for over 30 years, maybe 35 now. And I've given a lot of master classes. And I feel that there is not just one technique for each person, for one person. There's got to be a technique for each individual. So I do go a lot with the natural production technique. If you say an E, I don't want you to say it with your lips. That's not an E. I want you to just say it naturally, E, and then realize where the space inside of your mouth, at the back of your throat, what is happening with your teeth. I do a lot of what you know is quantum teaching. It's very, very detailed. I give a lot of information, and sometimes I feel like I can definitely tell you all about the pedagogy. I can use all the big words, but in the interest of time, sometimes I'll just say, stick it up your nose, or sing with all your teeth, or something that would sound silly to anybody else. But to the singer, it makes sense. Or feel the tingle at the tip of the nose, or where the vibration. Where's the vibration? Is it up in your cheekbones? Or something like that. And it is the person standing in front of me that I care about. It's not everybody else, and I won't teach everybody the same, because you've got a different bone structure, you've got a different psychology, you need to hear different words sometimes. So for me, it's a very, very individual thing.
Did you yourself had a daily singing routine?
Not really. If I felt like I needed to warm up, I'd warm up. I would see how I felt. A lot of times in the morning, I would warm up my lower voice, just warm up the low. In the afternoon, I might come back and do something low and middle. And then in the evening, I'd add the high. I don't know why I decided to do that, but somehow it worked for me. And so then in the evening was a good time for me to rehearse with my whole voice.
So you are a professor in Paris and also in Seoul in South Korea.
Yes, I am. Now, I do need to backtrack, rewind just a moment to warming up. You did say something about warming up.
Yeah.
And I was talking to you recently, I think, about warming up in character. And nobody knows about it, so I'm going to talk about it here. Hopefully it will help a lot of people, because when you warm up in a character, it marries the mind, the voice, the body, the thought, everything together all at once and very fast. Have you heard a lot of times in these critiques of people, they say, it took her an act to warm up, and then after that, she sounded really good. Well, I think it's because she didn't warm up in character. And what that means is you take your whatever you do, whatever exercise you like, on whatever vowel you like, and you decide, I'm going to warm up as Rosina, or I'm going to warm up as Lady Macbeth, or I'm going to warm up as Sesto, or whomever. But you take all of their emotions and you go up all the way from the bottom to the top, and then you come back down. Don't just go up, but go up and come down, and go up and come down within your range in the gamut of emotions that character has. You will just feel so good, because you will be ready to sing, but not only ready to sing, ready to be there and be present as that character as well.
That sounds really good. To try.
Sorry. So what was your next question about
so it was about your being
my
professor in Paris and also in Seoul. And I wanted to ask, is there a difference between education systems in Europe and in Asia?
Yes, there's a big difference, I think. I have to say that in Asia, it is not as nonchalant. It is very, very serious. They take it very seriously. They're in the school where I am. It's called Seoul National University. It's the best school there is in Seoul, in Korea, actually. And I've noticed that even the singers that are not very good are still incredible. Their basic voices, the basic sound is like nothing I've ever heard. And the singers that I have in my studio are better than people you hear at the Metropolitan Opera. I mean, it's an amazing phenomenon that the Korean singers are just so fantastic. Now, the thing that I'm trying to help my studio, my singers with, is the acting part of it. because they're taught a lot about the technique, but about the acting, they leave that out the door a little bit. So I think that's why I was brought over as well, and is to help with the acting part of it. And I'm enjoying helping them with that. But I think the difference also is that there's an incredible respect that comes from their culture for the professor. The first week I was there, all my studio would come and stand on the steps as they put me in the car, and they would bow and say goodbye. I told them that's a lovely, lovely thing to do, but you don't have to, it's okay. And they are also taught, I think, that the technique is the most important thing. And of course, you have to have the technique solid before you go on, but they stay there talking about the technique a lot. And I think that in Europe, they go a little bit more for the drama. In America, it's technique and drama. And since our opera in America is Broadway, we're brought up with drama. So, which is perfect for an opera singer. Of course, we love to create a lot of drama, right? On and off stage. Like it says in my book, Una Voce, the drama on stage and off, So, but I think that the difference is that, of course, the similarities, I think, are that we all want to make sure that the person graduates from that conservatory with a fantastically solid technique.
Imagine you would be able to shape the singer education from the beginning. How would it be?
Yes, I love that. I always give a questionnaire to the new ones, and I say, you put your name and your date on it, the date on it, and then we will come back in 1 year, and we will look at that, and we will evaluate how you feel. It's amazing, Elisabeth, because what happens is we come back in a year and they feel completely different. And we're able to evaluate how they changed and what was different, And I have, I'm one that tends to have a lot of parties for my students, because I want them to feel, I feel that I get their best work when they're relaxed and they're having fun. And it's not just all having fun, believe me, it's a lot of hard work. But I feel that if they're nervous, if they're thinking about other things, they can't really learn to concentrate. So at my parties, we do this thing called 3 things. It's a game I made up. And I always say, what are 3 things you like about yourself? What are 3 things you don't like? What are 3 things you wish you could change? It's questions like that. And it makes everybody get to know each other really well, to where now I have a big waiting list, and I always feel very, very bad when I have to turn students away. But my students, they always say, we're a family, in my studio in Seoul, we're a family. And I feel that it's important to give them that support, to give them some type of support to where they feel that there's somebody on their side.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I do teach here in Paris, and I teach online, a lot of wonderful students all over the world.
And tell me, if you are sitting in the jury in a competition, which features of the singers are the most important for you?
Well, for me, it has to make me feel something. So of course, for everything for me goes from the drama. So I need this person to show me something, not just create a wall in front of me and them. I need the body language to be open, not hands clasped in front of them as if they're afraid. I need to see somebody with confidence, somebody who's got a good technique, yes, but they don't have to be perfect as far as I'm concerned. I don't like the Susie soprano and Bobby baritone, everybody singing so perfectly, but then not saying anything. And I know that my other colleagues of mine, they want to see just the opposite. So that's what you're up against, singers. You've got too many differing opinions. If you have 5 judges in a room, that's how many different opinions you may have, but I will always fight for the singer who shows me something special and isn't just like everybody else.
Okay. And how do you think, is it the best way to start the career nowadays? Through the theater auditions, through the opera studios, through the, I don't know, through the auditions by the managers?
Before COVID, I would have said different things. Now I say any way you can. Any way you can. And I just had a bass, Jason Park, who you know, fantastic bass, who came to masterclass at Eva Lind Academy in Achenkirch just recently. And there was another person there who, wonderful teacher, Daniele Fali, who recommended him to Vienna Staatsoper Opera Studio. I mean, this is a young bass who's just gotten his diploma from school. And now he's starting in September at the opera studio in Vienna for Vienna Staatsoper. So I'm really happy about that. He had come over. I had told him, you have to come over to Europe. You cannot stay in Seoul. You've got to get out of Seoul and come here, because in Seoul, they love musical theater. And of course, they love classical music too. But there's not a lot of opportunity for an opera singer to make a big career there. So I think everyone would agree that you have to go outside. It's like America. You know, if you're an American, you have to come to Europe. So I think the Europeans are pretty lucky because they're already in the place where they need to be, but we all have to go somewhere else. So I encouraged Jason to come over here. Now, I am also talking to other young singers who are trying to get agents, who are realizing that now after COVID, there are a lot of opera companies that will even hear you without an agent. And we're just trying to find out who those people are so that I can send all these people to these opera companies. And so the way it was before COVID was that you could get an agent and get auditions and hopefully get a job. Now, after COVID, you get in just about any way that you can. You know, if you can contact the opera company itself and say, can I get in on auditions that are going on this month? And they tell you when, and you go and you sing and hopefully get something. A lot of times you can even just call the secretary of the intendant, if that's possible these days, and ask if you can have an audition, or have somebody call as your personal representative if you don't have an agent. Somebody call on your behalf. Because I think the agents are having a hard time right now as well.
Do you think that opera world will change after Corona crisis? And if yes, how? In which way?
It has changed already. It has changed in that they are trying new things, like doing more performances outside in tents, and trying to go along with restrictions, because we really don't know how long all of these restrictions in each country and in America, in each state will, we don't know how long they'll be. We don't know how long we will live with this. And we don't know exactly how the whole landscape will change, you know, but we do know this: opera is still going on. You still have to do auditions, and you still have to have your calling card. And what I mean by that is you have to say, I am Elisabeth Sergeeva, I'm a mezzo-soprano. You know, you have to still have your identity that you can sell. Now, the other thing is, right after we started to see a tiny bit of light at the end of the tunnel, after the lockdowns and everything, I noticed that Baroque operas were being done a lot, because they could have a reduced orchestra and not so many people. Of course, it would depend on the opera. We know that some of the Baroque operas can have, you know, a ton of people in the cast, but there are some that don't. So I noticed that the Baroque operas were going on full blast and the other operas were not, because it was too much of a big production that had to be put on, and they didn't have the money, they didn't have the people, they couldn't put many people on stage close together. So they were looking for operas that they could do with very few people on stage and with social distancing. So I noticed a lot of Baroque operas were really starting to come to the forefront. And so I was telling my Baroque singers and some of my non-Baroque singers, learn something Baroque, and see if you can get jobs that way, by appealing to what is in demand.
Yeah, good idea. I didn't notice that. Yeah.
Well, you know what? That's something that, don't feel like you're the only one that hasn't noticed it, because I think a lot of people are not thinking that way. We're all looking forward. When we have a career, we look forward. We have this tunnel vision, right? And we think we've got to concentrate on our careers. But the problem is, if you walk down the street and you just look forward, think of everything that you miss. You're going to miss the beautiful penthouse on the top of this beautiful building, where all of these plants are hanging over. If you don't look up, if you don't look to the side of you, maybe you don't see a store that you might have needed to go into. If you don't look behind you, you're not safe. So let's try to look all around us, up, around. Let's look in all dimensions if we can, and try to think really, really outside of the box now. Because if you don't, you can get left behind if you're just thinking the way you've always thought. So I would say trying to think in a different way, be in a different way, be in a different world that we have, conform to it, or at least understand it, so that you can be a part of it. I think that's an important thing to do.
Yes. Do you have a role that you dreamed to sing, but you never get an opportunity? Or maybe...
Yeah, it was Octavian. I wanted always to sing Octavian. It would have been really good. But whenever I was offered the role, I was also offered Giulio Cesare or Rosina or something else. And I always took those, and I didn't do it. And now I'm thinking, I'm more of a Marshall now than I am an Octavian, that I would ever do that, but yeah, I mean, that's the only thing. But I can truthfully say I've done just about everything I ever wanted to do at every house I ever wanted to sing at. So, I mean, I feel incredibly lucky and humble that I actually got to catch my star, because I feel horrible when I think about people who try so hard and they've never caught their star, so I never forget for 1 minute how lucky I have been and am still.
Do you have some projects to sing?
Yeah,
What
I
will
do.
next?
I am going to do a concert with my group, Jennifer Larmore and Opus 5. It's a quintet, and that is in Switzerland, in Liestal, at a wonderful festival held by Riccardo Bovino. And I'm going to do Herodias and Salome in Tokyo. And there's some other possibilities, but I shouldn't say anything. But when we talk next, I'll tell you about those. Hopefully I'll have a contract. But I'm very, very happy teaching. I think it's a great overlapping now of my career, which will probably come to an end in a few years. I'll do the big
gala.
I'm just kidding. No, I'll say no, not a big gala, but a big retirement tour. I won't have the big gorgeous dress like Joan Sutherland had, but I'll do my own thing. But yeah, or I might just quietly slip away. Who knows? But I'll always be teaching as long as I can. I think that's where my heart is. It's really in the teaching and the giving the master classes and helping the next generation, that wants to sing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this interview. It was very interesting. It will be very interesting for everybody.
Thank you, Elisabeth. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.